It was supposed to be just another stolen base attempt. Instead, it became one of the most talked about plays of the 2025 MLB season. A violent collision at second base that left Shohei Ohtani on the ground in pain, triggered a near brawl involving both dugouts, and ended with a Brewers infielder walking off the field after being ejected by the umpires. The question that exploded across baseball immediately after, was that a tag or a dirty play? We are breaking down every single moment of what happened at American Family Field in Milwaukee: the stolen base attempt, the brutal impact, the ejection of Brewers second baseman Bryce Tang, and what Ohtani's injury means for a player who is currently having one of the most historic two-way seasons in the history of professional baseball. The Milwaukee Brewers were hosting the Los Angeles Dodgers at American Family Field. On the mound for Milwaukee was Logan Henderson, a young right-hander who had been tasked with one of the most difficult assignments a pitcher can receive: keeping the Dodgers lineup quiet, starting with the most dangerous player in baseball. And when we say dangerous, the numbers back that up entirely. Entering this game, Shohei Ohtani was slashing .270 with 8 home runs, 26 RBI, 6 stolen bases, and an OPS of .885. On the mound, he carried a 4-0 record with an ERA of just 0.73 across 8 starts. Those are not typos. A sub-1 ERA while also hitting at an elite level in the middle of an MLB lineup. Ohtani was doing things that simply have no modern comparison. Every single at-bat from Ohtani in this game carried weight. The Dodgers needed him firing. The Brewers needed Henderson to contain him. And from the first pitch, it was clear this matchup was going to be anything but routine. Henderson came into this at-bat with a clear strategy: elevate the fastball, keep the ball up in the zone, and limit Ohtani's ability to get his swing fully extended. It is a reasonable approach against a hitter of Ohtani's caliber. Pitch him where he is least comfortable and force him to make a decision on a borderline offering. Ohtani refused to cooperate. Working through the count with the patience that has become one of his trademarks at the plate, Ohtani stayed disciplined through every elevated pitch Henderson threw. He fouled off the ones that were close. He took the ones that were just off the corner. Henderson pushed it to full count, 3 balls, 1 strike, and then Ohtani calmly drew the walk, refusing to expand the zone and trot to first base without giving the pitcher anything to work with. It was a quiet moment. No drama, no swing, no highlight clip, but it set the stage for everything that followed. Ohtani stood on first base. Kyle Tucker was at the plate. In that moment, the tension at American Family Field shifted. Anyone who watches baseball closely knows what Ohtani on the base paths means. He is not a static presence. He is a constant threat, capable of taking second on almost any count. The body language told the story before the play even started. Ohtani was watching Brewers catcher William Contreras closely, measuring his setup, calculating the distance to second base, reading everything the battery was giving him. The moment Henderson delivered the pitch, Ohtani was gone. He exploded off first base with the kind of acceleration that only elite athletes generate. Contreras popped out of his crouch immediately and fired a laser to second base, a strong, accurate throw that got there quickly. Ohtani hit the dirt in a full-speed slide into the bag. The umpire signaled safe. The crowd reacted instantly. For a brief moment, the Dodgers had something to build on. The Brewers' coaching staff did not hesitate. The challenge flag was thrown immediately, and the stadium shifted into that tense, uncomfortable waiting mode that replay reviews create. Thousands of fans staring at the giant screen, watching the same angles over and over, trying to read the outcome before it was announced. The review was lengthy. Multiple camera angles were analyzed. The umpires at the replay center in New York went through the footage frame by frame. The final ruling came back out. Second baseman Bryce Tang had applied the tag before Ohtani's hand touched the bag. The call was overturned. Dodgers fans were frustrated, and the stolen base that looked like a momentum boost was erased from the board. But the controversy was not over the stolen base anymore. Because when people started slowing down the footage and looking at exactly how that tag was applied, the conversation changed entirely. This is the play that everyone is talking about. When you slow down the footage and analyze Tang's tag technique from multiple camera angles, what you see raises serious questions. Tang did not simply apply a glove to the sliding Ohtani and wait for the ruling. Multiple angles show Tang allegedly using his arm and body to block Ohtani's path to the base, positioning himself in a way that created a physical obstruction rather than just a defensive play. The impact was not subtle. Ohtani, coming in at full speed on his slide, lost his balance and slammed hard into the field. He went down with visible discomfort in his shoulder and arm. He stayed on the ground for a moment that felt much longer than it actually was. For a stadium full of fans and a television audience watching across the country, those few seconds were genuinely alarming. This is Shohei Ohtani, a player of generational rarity, lying in the dirt at second base with his arm and shoulder taking the impact of a collision at full speed. The moment that set the stadium on fire, Kyle Tucker did not wait. He was the first Dodger on the scene, and he made his position clear immediately, pointing directly and aggressively at Bryce Tang, his voice carrying across the field in a confrontation that was impossible to miss. The verbal exchange between Tucker and Tang was loud and direct. Multiple Dodgers left the dugout within seconds. Coaches from both sides moved quickly onto the field to prevent the situation from escalating into a full-on brawl, but the energy was intense and the anger was real. Manager Dave Roberts was absolutely furious. He demanded a full umpire review and made his argument clearly to the crew on the field. Roberts' position was direct. This was not a defensive baseball play. His argument, according to reports from the field, this wasn't defense, this was dangerous. That framing is important. There is a meaningful difference in both the rules of baseball and the culture of the game between playing hard and playing recklessly. Roberts was making the case that Tang had crossed that line, that what happened to Ohtani at second base went beyond competitive baseball and into territory that the umpires needed to address. After a replay review and an extended discussion among the umpiring crew, the decision came down. Bryce Tang was ejected from the game for dangerous and unsportsmanlike behavior. The crowd at American Family Field split immediately. Dodgers fans, and there were plenty traveling to Milwaukee, saw it as justice. Brewers fans expressed outrage at the punishment, booing loudly and making their disagreement with the call known. The ejection raises a legitimate analytical question. Was it justified? What do the rules actually say? Under MLB rules, a fielder cannot use obstruction to impede a base runner without being in possession of the ball or in the act of fielding it. When replay footage suggests that a fielder's body positioning created an unnecessary physical hazard for a sliding runner, beyond what is required to apply a standard tag, umpires have the authority to determine that the conduct crossed into dangerous territory. The evidence from multiple camera angles, combined with the impact that put Ohtani on the ground, gave the umpires enough to make that call. Whether every person watching agreed with it is a separate question. But the mechanics of the decision had a basis in the rules. Here is what happened after Shohei Ohtani slammed into the field, took a hard collision to his shoulder and arm, and had the stolen base overturned against him. He got up. He brushed the dirt off his uniform. He walked back toward the dugout. No theatrics, no extended visit from the training staff on the field, no being helped off. The image of Ohtani calmly composing himself after a collision that sent the entire Dodgers dugout onto the field was striking in its simplicity. The reaction from fans and analysts was immediate. Ohtani's response to the collision, getting up and continuing, became as much a part of the conversation as the collision itself. It was consistent with his established approach throughout his MLB career: absorb the moment, move forward, stay focused. Despite the physical toll of the collision, Ohtani continued to compete for the Dodgers as the game moved forward. In his second at-bat in the fourth inning, the Dodgers were trailing by 5 runs and needed something to spark the lineup. Ohtani battled Henderson and came through with a quality hit. The Dodgers loaded the bases with genuine opportunity in front of them, but Max Muncy popped out, and the threat evaporated without producing the runs Los Angels desperately needed. In his third at-bat in the fifth inning, it was Henderson who got the better of the exchange. The young Brewers right-hander executed a perfectly placed changeup, a pitch that moved late and dropped out of the zone in a way that pulled Ohtani off balance. Ohtani chased it and struck out. Henderson's visible excitement on the mound after retiring Ohtani on that pitch was notable. Getting a strikeout against the best player in baseball in a high-pressure situation means something for a young pitcher building his identity at the MLB level. Ohtani, for his part, walked back to the dugout with the same quiet focus he carries through every at-bat regardless of the outcome. The Dodgers were unable to mount a comeback despite Ohtani's efforts throughout the game. The 5-run deficit proved to be too much to overcome, and Milwaukee held on. Post-game, the conversation among analysts centered on one primary question: could MLB open a formal investigation into Tang's collision with Ohtani? The league has precedent for reviewing plays that result in ejections and involve potential risk of injury to players. When a collision at second base results in a starting player going to the ground with visible shoulder and arm discomfort, and the umpires have already determined the conduct was dangerous enough to warrant an ejection, that is exactly the kind of situation the league's office tends to examine more closely after the fact. The broader question the play forces baseball to confront is where exactly the line falls between aggressive, competitive defense and intentional, dangerous conduct. Tag plays at second base are inherently physical: a runner sliding at full speed, a fielder trying to hold position and apply the glove before the runner arrives. Hard contact happens, but the rules exist specifically to prevent fielders from using their bodies as obstacles in ways that create unnecessary injury risk. Historical context is relevant here. MLB has addressed similar plays in recent seasons, issuing suspensions and fines in cases where replay evidence showed a fielder's positioning created unreasonable hazard for a sliding runner. Whether the league determines this play meets that threshold remains to be seen, but the ejection itself signals that the umpires on the field believe something had crossed the line in real time. Every injury risk to Shohei Ohtani carries stakes that do not apply to any other player in baseball. The numbers he has put up through this point in the 2025 season are not normal. On the hitting side, .270 batting average, 8 home runs, 26 RBI, and .885 OPS. On the mound, a 4.0 record with a 0.73 ERA across 8 starts. No player in modern baseball history sustains this level of production on both sides of the game simultaneously. That dual contribution is not just statistically rare, it has direct value implications for the Los Angeles Dodgers and for the competitive balance of the entire National League. When Ohtani takes the mound every fifth day, he neutralizes opposing lineups at a rate that almost no pitcher in the sport can match. When he steps into the batter's box, he represents one of the most dangerous offensive threats in any lineup in baseball. A collision at second base that results in shoulder and arm discomfort for a player carrying that workload is not a small story. It is a story with implications for the Dodgers' roster management, their playoff outlook, and the physical health of the most unique player the sport has produced in decades. The injury report coming out of Milwaukee will be watched closely. The play that caused it will be reviewed, debated, and analyzed as one of the defining moments of this regular season.